Can you ever have too many radios? Well, according to my wife, yes, you can. Of course, I would ask her, can one woman ever have too many shoes? Okay, actually, I would never ask her that. But you get my drift, right? Each of these radios has its own strength and weakness. This one up here is an HD radio, which the others cannot receive. I have two emergency radios that do weather, AM and FM. This one also has AM, FM, and weather, but is not an emergency radio. It has shortwave radio also. We have a standard AM, FM, old school transistor radio, shortwave aviation, shortwave exceptional reception on this radio, and a clock radio way back there. These two actually have to be plugged in, whereas all the other ones are portable. But none of these radios have what the Choyong LC90 can offer. So let's unbox and see what it's all about. The first thing I noticed, whatever's in here isn't fully cushioned. So we take off the cellophane wrapping, take off the cover, nice thick cardboard. There's the radio. It has no protective material around it, no foam. This is a new and not refurbished unit. It looks clean, no scratches on it, no dents. You get one radio, an instruction sheet, and for a radio that does many things, as you'll see in a moment, this seems pretty thin. You get a cord for charging, USB-C to B, and a little wrist strap should you decide to carry this radio. Although this radio has a little bit of heft to it, so in the world of portable radios, it's kind of heavy. So let's take a closer look at some of its features. Looking at the front, it is 7 3/4 inches across, 4 3/4 inches high, and a depth of 1.5 inches. It weighs 1.25 pounds. We have a total of 3 speakers, a bass driver, a passive bass radiator, a silk dome tweeter. Control-wise, we have power on and off. We have a heart where you can save your favorite radio stations, recall your favorite radio stations. We have a history to show you what you've been listening to, a setup button. You have a 3-function clock button, which allows you to set a timer for turning off the radio. It allows you to set a time for the radio to come on or a time for the radio to go off. Plus, you get 3 alarms. And then we have a button to just lock out all the controls. Coming down the side, we have FM band, medium wave, which includes your AM. Pressing the medium wave button a second time gets you into long wave, while if you're in short wave and you press it a second time, you get upper sideband. Press it again, you get lower sideband. Then it takes you back out to short wave. Bluetooth and TF. So you can transmit from your cell phone to this via Bluetooth, and in TF, that's actually something you might know as micro SD card. And actually on the bottom of the unit, there's a place for a SIM card, so you can listen to your favorite internet stations without the use of Wi-Fi. There's also a TF slot, again, micro SD, and that can hold up to 32 gigs of music. You just slide it in there. You can play that anytime you want by hitting that button. Our lower buttons include an acknowledgement button, a shortcut to music available on the internet, a shortcut to podcasts available on the internet, a shortcut to news available on the internet. You have a 10 numeric keypad for entering frequency. You have an edit button here that allows you to add new internet stations. Then you have the VM button, which allows you to either view the frequency or view the memory address that's been saved. You then have the return button for menu functions. You have a previous play and pause and forward play. Then this is used with the Bluetooth or with your micro SD card if you're playing back music. Tag gives you a list of various internet radio program types. Menu gives you access to internet radio and allows you to choose per region and country. Lang allows you to use voice command with the radio. In the category, it's a great idea, but it doesn't execute well, is the language. You push this down, you'll get a little mic. Once the mic becomes active, you tell it what you want to tune into. BBC News. And it acknowledged that we said BBC News, but what we have is News Talk out of Toronto. On the side, you have 3 knobs. This is your multifunction tuning knob. It's also used as a confirmation knob. It has detent on it. You can push it to change the step function. You can also push it to confirm something in the menu. In addition to the rotary tuner, you can scan up or down on the frequency by long pressing either one of these buttons. Below that is your fine tuning knob. This also has a detent. And then below that is volume. If you take it all the way to the end, you can actually put the radio in standby mode. Then you have ports for headphones, USB charging, and the external antenna. The multi-element antenna measures 38.75 inches. On the back of the radio is a display of the different frequency ranges. And then you have your battery compartment, which is guarded by a T7 fastener in order to get to the 2 batteries. We'll take this off just to show you what it looks like on the inside. There are 2 18650 lithium batteries at 2,500 milliamp hours each for a total of 5,000 milliamp hours. The left side of the radio is blank. There is a slot here for the wrist strap. The bottom side of the radio includes 2 rubber feet and of course the SIM slot and the micro SD slot. Before we can start using our radio, we need to plug it in and let the battery charge. The display shows you the battery level, and you'll notice that the keyboard is backlit. While the radio continues to charge, we're going to turn it on. Select Setup. Wi-Fi is off. If I use the knob, I can turn that on, and I can also clean the Wi-Fi record, but there's none available at this point. So what I want to do is just turn it on, and it shows me available Wi-Fi networks. I select, it loads them in, and then I see that there's an encrypted network that I can attach to, and it shows me everything that's in my area. So you find the one that's best for you. It works on the 2 gigahertz band, so that you'll be selecting from. Press the tuning knob, and now you have to give it your password. And you'll use the tuning knob, the numeric keypad. This is not a touchpad, so you'll actually have to use the real pad. And also at the bottom of the pad here, where it says VF, VM, you can use that to change from lowercase to uppercase letters. There we go with uppercase. So insert your password, and then you'll be ready to connect to your local Wi-Fi. With the password selected, find the word enter, and then we make that selection, and now it will make the Wi-Fi connection for you. We get the dreaded communication failed error message, and this could mean a multitude of things. Wi-Fi signal is too weak. You're trying to get into a network that is not 2.4 gigahertz, or, as was my case, my system is encrypted with WPA2 and WPA3, and this radio will only accept WPA2. So your choices are either to go into your router and make your router less secure, which I wasn't about to do. You can return the radio, or I dug up an old Netgear router that I had laying around, which I knew maxed out at WPA2, and so I created a network just for the radio, and I was able to connect. Once you're connected to your Wi-Fi, scroll down in that same menu until you get to version info. Acknowledge that. Okay. And this will check to see if there are any over-the-air version firmwares that you can update to. In our case, there is. Do note that you will need that SD, little micro SD card inserted into the unit prior to doing this, and it will prompt you for that. So my card's already in there. So it says that I can update firmware by pressing the OK button, and we allow it to do that. We're warned not to press any buttons or do anything with the radio while this takes place. The ability to update your software via over-the-air is a very nice feature. It's been added to this radio, eliminating the need for a laptop or computer. Again, pay attention to the messages as they're very important and will prevent the unit from either locking out or being damaged. The radio will self-boot after the firmware update, and it's reconnected to my internet station with the new firmware. If we go to Setup, we see that at least 2 entries have been added. We have a data SIM card entry, a SIM card selection, and we don't have a SIM card in this radio, so I'll just skip over those. We have our Wi-Fi. We have our backlit. If you select backlit, you actually get a choice of how long you want this display to be on for, from 10 seconds to always on, and it just loops through that selection. We hit the letter C to back us out of that. We go to the next one, autoplay. You saw how it went into the internet mode instantly because it's just set to start playing. If we go in there, our choices are off or on. FM steps, you can change those depending on your location. 100, 200 kilohertz, 50 kilohertz, and it just cycles through. The same thing for your medium wave. You can change those steps. Again, you just press on the tuning knob. And then we have your IMEI and MAC. So you can get that information now, apparently is available. So there's the MAC address for the system and the IMEI, which I believe is part of the SIM card setup. Again, C backs you out of that. And we have our version info. Then we have legal and regulatory, which is a new ad. And we see here that the radio's been approved by the FCC in the United States and in Europe and in Japan. Backing out of that, we can restore the radio back to factory settings if we get into a jam or if we're just selling it or giving the radio away to someone else. So those are some of the functions. Those are actually all the functions that are available underneath Setup. And by the way, once you connect to the internet, the time will automatically update to your area, so you don't have to set the time. While this is a very capable radio, the reason most people are going to buy it is because of its internet capability. So let's press Menu. We have a choice of different regions throughout the world. We're going to pick North America. Within North America, we're going to pick USA. And our first choice is music, news, podcast, national stations, and then individual states. So let's go down to Illinois. Oops, passed it up right there. And you get a bunch of selections of different stations throughout. Let's try this one in Chicago. And it's crystal clear. If you don't like that station, you can hit the C. It takes you back into the menu. You can continue dialing down. Pick something else. And now the speed at which the station buffers in can be slow or fast, depending on the station, your internet connection. This one's having a little bit of an issue where you saw the first one really load in quickly, and it just varies. So that's just part of having internet radio.
You know, they sit on a couch together.
And there we go. Now we're listening to WLS Chicago. Again, if you hit the C, that takes you back out, and we can opt to go to a different state, or if we come back out to the regions, let's go to Europe. And I'm going to pick Germany. And I'm just going to pick the category of music. And let's do 80s, 80s. And as you saw, that buffered in really, really quickly. And again, nice, clean, static-free reception. And that's the thing about internet radio. It's always going to be clean. You're not going to have any issues with that. The big issue that you're going to have is either adding an internet station, because while the function down here to add one is very, very easy, locating one is the difficulty, because you're going to end up using a browser and you're going to try to look for a streaming, and I can't even go into it because there are like 5,000 methods and not all of them work all the time. So do an internet search for that, and best I can say is good luck. If I've done it 20 times, I've only had success twice. So, but once you have that URL streaming link, it's very easy to add to the radio. The radio comes with thousands of internet radio stations programmed into it. To add an internet station, we're going to press our edit button. It's going to allow me to add a stream. I'm going to confirm that. It's going to give me a QR code and a website and a verify number. So I will go to the site. I will select add station. It wants the code. So if you don't use it within a few minutes, it expires. Now I'm going to take this address that we've determined is good, and I'm going to paste it in by hitting add radio station. I want to name the radio station. I don't know the codec. I do know the URL. I don't know the icon URL. I don't know that bit rate. So I'm just going to submit that. That's what I want. And now I can add another station. But if I go back to my radio and hit the edit button, I will see that it has added the station, and if I click on it, it'll buffer in. And now I've added an internet station to my radio. In order to use the Bluetooth function, you need a Bluetooth device, such as this phone. We turn on Bluetooth. We look for the radio. We allow that to pair. And now, if you come over to Bluetooth, you should be able to control the radio via the display here or the display on the phone itself. Sometimes you may need to start it here. And we can switch music by using the fast forward and reverse. So you see you have full control of your Bluetooth device via the radio or the device itself. And of course, you can control volume. To use a micro SD card, we simply make sure that the copper strips are facing towards the front of the radio. We insert it, we push it all the way in, and it'll spring lock. And it might take a couple attempts, but it'll stay in there. That's when you know it's fine. Make sure you do this while the radio's off. Now you turn on the radio. Once it's on, you select TF. And there's a listing of all the songs. You can use the tuning knob to pick a song, press it, and immediately starts to play.
She's crazy like a fool.
And of course, you can use the fast forward and fast reverse to change song selections. And you can pause and play. Why use a micro SD card when you already have an internet radio? Well, maybe you're in a location where you don't have access to Wi-Fi, and so you can store a bunch of music on the SD card and use that. Why purchase this internet radio at a retail price of $250 when you can get something like this that has internet capability, or your cell phone, which is also able to act as an internet radio? Well, both these devices have certain limitations. This is usually your phone, so it's going to ring. It doesn't have a really good speaker like this one does. And its capabilities just limited, whereas this is a dedicated device that does internet radio. You get, of course, the ability to get radio stations from all over the world in different languages, news, information. On top of that, it has the multi-band capability, and it has Bluetooth, along with the ability to playback audio from a micro SD card. So its capabilities far exceed those of other internet devices. What you have to decide is whether all the features of the LC90 are worth the price. If you found this video interesting or useful, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, join the subscription team, and as always, thank you ever so much for watching.